Well, is California beyond repair? Budget crises and partisan gridlock in Sacramento led many Californians to believe the answer is yes. In a new book called California Crackup, author Joe Mathews and Mark Paul explore what is wrong with our state and how we can fix it, and they join us now. So welcome, and let's see if in our time you can explain to us how we got to be in the state that we're in today. You want to start with it?
Sure. I mean, the crack up to us means we're in a spot not just that where we have all these problems in education and prisons and water and healthcare, but that we have improvised our way over 160 years, and particularly in the last 30 years with lots of voter-approved measures, into a place where we can't even govern ourselves. We can't make progress on these issues that we know are problems.
Mark, how did that happen?
Well, it's largely because California has never had a real founding. The state got, people came here in a hurry back in the gold rush. We've been getting, ultimately through boom and bust, getting rich, and we've never really crafted a government equal to the size of the state, the population of the state, and we keep trying, as Joe said, these improvised silver bullets of reform to try to get through a problem to the next boom. And we finally reached the end of the line that California has gotten itself a system that's at war with itself, that doesn't work because it can't work. It's a very radical, improvised system that no other state tries to use.
What are some of the reforms that we're talking about here? What did we do?
Well, I mean, our diagnosis first is that there are sort of three systems here: an election system that's designed to produce majorities, a consensus governing system of 2/3 supermajorities that amount to minority rule. Those two don't fit together, and then this very inflexible initiative system. And the broad strokes is we need to take those three systems, which are at war with each other, and integrate them into one. So what we propose an election, a different kind of election system that involves in a much different shaped legislature, a unicameral, many more people in it, and elections that involve multi-member districts for the legislature rather than single-member districts, where proportional representation can be used to give people the real sense that they can change the shape of the legislature and that every vote counts. Right now, we don't have real legislative elections. We all know today who's going to win. It'll be the Democrats in the same numbers they have now.
Do you agree with that? Of course you agree. That's your book.
Well, fixing the election system, and then once we have a legislature that we can hold accountable, that is more representative of California, then we can do a second big thing, which is to take out all those 2/3 vote requirements that we have about budgets and taxes and school funding guarantees and transportation. I mean, one of the reasons we're so unhappy with the legislature is because with the legislature, we've taken away all their flexibility to govern. And we've imposed the 2/3 requirements so that the budget that was just passed and signed today belongs to nobody. It's not the Democrats' budget. They didn't like it. It's not the Republicans' budget. They didn't like it. It's not the governor's budget. It is a budget that belongs to no one because we require this consensus system. We'd be better off changing the legislature, making it more accountable, and then actually letting the legislature govern.
Those seem like two things that are near impossible, given the structure of the people who'd have to make the changes. Is it possible? Is there a way around?
I think it is. I mean, it requires doing something California has never done before, which is really sort of start from scratch, look at its systems, and create something coherent. But, you know, and it's difficult because public opinion is so confused. People don't have an understanding of how state government works. But I do think that when you have a system that's this perverse, this radical, you know, with supermajority systems that no other state uses, an initiative and referendum system that no other state or country uses, when people come to understand how strange and perverse the status quo is, moving to a system, you know, based on ideas and things that work in other places is a pretty moderate, simple, you know, vanilla kind of thing to do.
You're talking about elections of a different sort, more people in the legislature. Can you explain that a little more? What would happen?
Well, under our current system, and think here in the Bay Area, I mean, all of the assembly and Senate seats are controlled by Democrats, because this is a very heavily Democratic area. And Republicans in the Bay Area might as well not vote, because they know that their votes really don't count. And the same is true in reverse in the inland areas of California that are more heavily Republican. The Democrats really don't count. Under the kind of system we're talking about with proportional representation, every vote everywhere counts. If you're a Republican in the Bay Area and come out and vote for a Republican, it moves your party one bit closer to having an extra seat to possibly control the legislature, and vice versa. And the result of our current system now is that we don't, we have a legislative election next month, but nobody's paying any attention to it. They're not focusing on the issues because none of the elections are really competitive.
Why do you say it doesn't count, though?
Well, it counts in terms of who's in the legislature, but we know the results already because of the way in California, we're sorted into blue and red in districts that are not competitive.
So the district lines are here the culprit?
Was the part of the culprit, and the way we sort ourselves by choosing where we live in California. A proportional system gets rid of those kinds of problems.
Well, I think there's an audience out there would like any formula that gets rid of those kind of problems, and so it's been great to hear your insight on what California can do to fix itself. Thanks so much, both of you, Joe and Mark.